Yes guys, welcome back to another Fantasy Football Fix YouTube video. My name is FPL Nacho, and in this video we are going to be looking at the top transfers going into double game week 37. We only have 2 game weeks left of the season. It's ridiculous how quickly the last months have gone. It's so important that we make sure that these last few transfers are really hitting the nail on the head, and hopefully this video can help you out. So if you haven't already, I know there's only 2 game weeks remaining, but if you can hit that subscribe button, it is always appreciated. And if you can drop a like, that is always going to do wonders for this video. So guys, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so first up, we need to be looking at the man of the moment right now in İlkay Gündoğan, Man City's hero the last few weeks, the driving force in their last 2 Premier League games, where he has scored 4 goals and racked up 1 assist in the last 2 league games. Importantly, that brace against Everton being an unbelievable example of the quality that he's brought to this Man City team. And realistically, in the big moments when Man City have been looking upon their experienced players, it's been Gündoğan, it has been De Bruyne, of course, outside of Haaland. And it really does show what an amazing player he has been for Man City over the years. Now, from an FPL perspective, a lot of us haven't really gone to Gündoğan. We've been tempted by, of course, Haaland as our only Man City option from an attacking perspective. But the likes of Grealish, the likes of Mahrez have been catching our eye. But Gündoğan has really been ticking over quite nicely over the last few game weeks and really started to hit that stride, important time of the season. Now, is he an option for us going forward? Let's quickly touch on this. So first and foremost, XG per 90 since the World Cup is at 0.33, which is right up there with the other Man City midfielders. And we need to remember, he has played considerable game time since the World Cup. He's been pretty much an ever-present in that Man City team. Now, the important thing to note is his expected assists per 90 are really down at 0.09. And it really does emphasise that his kind of positioning in this team, with them playing the inverted role of John Stones going into midfield alongside Rodri, it's meant the likes of De Bruyne and Gündoğan have become much more necessarily late runners into the box. In particular, Gündoğan. KDB's picked up outside area positions, being a chance creator. Gündoğan has been the one that's been arriving in the box and causing problems for the centre-backs, and we saw that over the last 2 Premier League matches. And you could also see that for the big chances per 90. While they're not off the scale, they're not anything to scream and shout about, they are top for all Man City midfielders at 0.59, just emphasising the fact that of all the midfielders in that central position, he is the one that is getting into those goal-scoring opportunities on a regular basis. Now, as I discussed, it is a double game week in 37, and Man City are one of those teams who kick off at home against Chelsea, followed by away against Brighton. Now, the one thing we need to note is this: Man City only need 3 points to win the Premier League. And realistically, I think they are going to get those at home against a Chelsea team that have been so incredibly disappointing since Potter and Lampard have been in charge. And I fully expect Man City to get it done at the Etihad. That is what they're going to want to do in front of their own home fans. And this is where the problem starts to arise if we are considering not only Gündoğan but other Man City options in both goal, attack, defence, you name it. So my expectation right now is that Gündoğan will start at home against Chelsea. I don't see anything in the patterns to necessarily suggest that he will be dropped unless anything happens in Wednesday's night Champions League semi-final against Real Madrid. It's a reason why we need to hold off on any Man City transfers right now, as a lot can happen in that second leg, it is worth noting. But let's say Man City were to beat Chelsea in that first part of the double game week 37. Are we going to be seeing Pep Guardiola roll out his best team once again against Brighton after such a hectic schedule of Real Madrid on Wednesday, weekend of Chelsea, followed by midweek against Brighton? I think there could be a fantastic opportunity for Pep Guardiola to maybe rotate some of his team, give some rest to these older legs in the likes of Gündoğan, who of course still need to prepare for the FA Cup final and a potential Champions League final as well. So even though I think Gündoğan is a fantastic Man City option, I do think there needs to be caution in regards to his minutes going forward. I know they have a double in 37, but if they do wrap up the league, I think his minutes could be at risk in the second half of the double. And with Brentford away on the last game of the season, we could see a similar situation where Pep maybe gives some minutes to those players that haven't necessarily had them over the course of this season. So no denying Gundogan is a fantastic pick, and I would not put off anybody going there. But I would just say there is going to be a little bit of caution about his minutes in this double if they were to win that Premier League at home against Chelsea. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. I know he's the most bought player going into game week 37 at the time of recording. I would like to know if you are one of those managers that has also bought him into your team. So great option, but a little bit of a risk. So next up, let's move on to some Rashford replacements, specifically from the same side at Man United. And I think this is a discussion that we need to talk about ahead of game week 37. Okay, so for those that don't know, currently the injury status of Marcus Rashford is a little bit unknown. He missed game week 36 due to a slight knock. And at the time of recording, we have no clarity whatsoever whether he is going to be available or not for double game week 37. However, Man United still have a very good double away against Bournemouth, who are safe, and at home against a Chelsea team who I've discussed already is incredibly hard to predict. And I would expect Man United to get a positive result in that fixture, who are chasing top four themselves. So I decided to put on 4 Man United considerations. And I think if Rashford is out, then I think moving to a Man United attacker is actually a good move for your teams. As I mentioned, I can't really predict the minutes for those Man City alternatives. So we have Fernandes, Antony, Sancho and Garnacho, who has just returned from injury himself and picked up that late goal in game week 36. Now, first and foremost, I absolutely advise you guys waiting until the last minute regarding Rashford, because if he is confirmed fit for game week 37, then this is done. We don't have to think about anything here because Rashford is the best Man United midfielder for game week 37. However, if we were to find out that he is unavailable, then I think selling him is definitely a consideration, because we need to remember there's only 2 game weeks remaining of this whole entire season, and we really can't be holding a player like Rashford who is going to be ruled out for game week 37 when we could own a player that could feature in both of these favourable fixtures. So first up, we need to remember Fernandes is considerably more expensive than both Rashford and the other options that I have on our screens here at 9.5 million. However, if you can get yourself to Bruno Fernandes, I think this is the number one target. His minutes are guaranteed. He will be on penalties in the absence of Rashford, that will be guaranteed. And his underlying numbers are very good as well. 0.24 XG per 90 is okay, and we need to remember Fernandes has been operating in very different positions in the absence of the likes of Martial, Weghorst, Rashford over the last few weeks. It's important to note that he has been the chance creator in this Man United team with 0.54 expected assists per 90 and some decent big chances per 90 at 0.29. But if we're looking for minutes, and that's really important over these doubles, I think Bruno Fernandes, if you can afford it, is a fantastic move for your teams. And if we do get clarification that Rashford is fit, and you're also trying to squeeze in a third Man United option, maybe alongside your defensive asset, I think Fernandes is still the route to go for. Now, let's take a look at some real differentials. Antony, Sancho and Garnacho kind of epitomise that right now. If I was to pick one, I think I would lean towards Antony over Sancho first and foremost. Antony has started 10 of the last 11 league matches. Sancho only 7 of the last 10 league matches. So there is a little bit of rotation between the two, but I think Antony has secured that right-hand side of that front three. And his underlying numbers are actually okay. 0.13 XG per 90. Sorry, let me read that again. 0.34 XG per 90. 0.13 XA per 90. So he's a better goal threat than Sancho, while Sancho is slightly more of a chance creator in this Man United team. But for me, I want to go for the player that I think plays the most minutes. And I think Antony is that man there. So I would pick Antony over Sancho, but it doesn't get me excited regarding Antony. Now, the real differential is Garnacho, and this one is going to be completely dependent on the status of Rashford. He will be directly replacing Rashford if he was to be ruled out on the left of that front three. And again, minutes are hard to predict, but his expected goals per 90, remember it's a very small sample size, is 0.51, and expected assists at 0.25. So really, really promising underlying numbers. And importantly, big chances per 90 at 0.97. He is getting on the end of some fantastic goal scoring opportunities in this Man United team. And realistically, I think Garnacho is the ultimate punt. And this one, as I said, is going to be completely dependent on Rashford being ruled out for the double game week. So if I had to rank these, and we also need to remember game week 38 at home against Fulham is a fantastic game as well. So I want to be going for the player that I know is going to play all the minutes in the double and in game week 38. So Bruno Fernandes is by far and away the best option. I think second best is going to be Antony at 7.3 million, slightly cheaper than Bruno. I would actually pick Garnacho over Sancho, and then Sancho would be my fourth choice of the Man United assets. But I'll be super interested to know in the comments, guys, which one you would opt for if Rashford was ruled out. And secondly, who would be your third Man United option if Rashford was ruled fit? So, last up, we need to talk about Arsenal assets, as I still think they are fantastic options for our teams, and actually a little bit of a differential now that a lot of managers have moved away from these assets. So let's quickly touch on some Arsenal midfielders and forwards. Okay, so a little bit of a similar situation here regarding Trossard in Arsenal's attack. Similar to what I said about Man United's Garnacho only being a consideration if Rashford were ruled out, this is going to be the same sort of status for Trossard. Now, at the time of recording, we don't know the extent of Martinelli's injury. However, if we were to get information that he is going to be ruled out for the rest of the season, I expect Trossard to come in and start every minute of the last two fixtures on the left of that front three, as realistically, they don't really have many other options that can play in that specific position. Now, his underlying numbers while he's been on the field for Arsenal aren't necessarily incredible. 0.12 xG per 90, 0.33 expected assists per 90. However, at 6.6 million, he is the pick of the bunch from a price perspective if Martinelli is completely ruled out for game week 37 and game week 38. I would need him to be ruled out of both to even be a consideration for our teams. But if you are chasing those mini leagues, you're chasing overall rank, he is the ultimate punt in that Arsenal midfield if you wanted to go down that route. Now, let's say Martinelli is fit. He would be the option I would want to go for, but it's worth noting I expect his minutes to be more rotated than the other assets. Now, let's touch on the last few midfielders. Saka has been incredibly disappointed in the last few game weeks. 1 goal in his last 8 league matches really isn't anything to scream and shout about. And anyone that's seen him from an eye test perspective, he hasn't looked his usual sharp self. It really does feel like the incredible amount of minutes that he's played this season is just started to catch up with him, which is totally understandable. So, in terms of expected goals per 90, he still leads the way over Odegaard, but his numbers are down when we do look at expected assists and bonus points per 90. And if I was buying right now, if you had the funds available, I still like Bukayo Saka as an option just because he's on penalties as well, which is a real big factor that we need to consider. But if you can't get to Saka, Odegaard has been putting up some really good numbers of late. And the numbers that you can see on your screen are based on per 90 since the World Cup, and they are still really solid, well-rounded underlying numbers. So if you can't get to Saka, Odegaard is still a fantastic option, and I'd expect him to play at least 80 minutes in both of the fixtures that they have remaining of this season. Now, the last one we need to consider is Gabriel Jesus. Now, very difficult to get to Gabriel Jesus because I wouldn't say that the away fixture against Nottingham Forest is better than the likes of Callum Wilson or Alexander Isak at home against Leicester. But if you are chasing a forward as a bit of a differential for the next 2 game weeks, I don't think they come much better than Gabriel Jesus. I don't see any rotation in that number 9 position for him apart from fatigue or potential injury. And his XG per 90 is still fantastic at 0.66, and his bonus points per 90 is the best of the bunch at 0.94. In terms of predicted points as well, he's the second best forward between game weeks 37 and 38. So, to kind of wrap up the Arsenal attackers, I think Gabriel Jesus is an amazing differential forward, but I think he's a really tough one to get to with a lot of us having Haaland and a Newcastle forward, and I don't think it's worth the sideways move from an Isak or Wilson this week. If Martinelli is ruled out, I love Trossard as a differential pick, but if we know that Martinelli might be back, we don't consider Trossard, and I prefer Saka of the bunch, even though he has been underwhelming the last few weeks, but Odegaard is more than capable of beating him at a cheaper price. So Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys, on not only these Arsenal assets, but the United midfielders and your thoughts on Gundogan. And once again, I really do appreciate you guys tuning into this video. If you haven't already, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. I know we only have 2 weeks left, but it is always appreciated. And I will see you on Friday's live stream ahead of Double Game Week 37. I look forward to seeing you all there. Take care. Cheers.